Listen to me. If you want to be great, if you want to be successful, if you want to rise above average, you got to learn how to discipline yourself. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, because success doesn't care about your feeling. It doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you don't feel like it. It only responds to grind, hustle, and discipline. Discipline over motivation is a concept that separates those who dream from those who do. Too often, people wait around for motivation to strike like a lightning bolt, something magical, a sudden burst of energy that will make them leap into action. They think motivation is the fuel to success. But here's the truth. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the wind. It comes and goes. One day, you're fired up, ready to take on the world. The next, you're drained, distracted, and doubting everything. If you're relying on motivation to carry you, you'll fall short every time. Because when life gets tough, and it always does, motivation won't be there to save you. What will save you is discipline. Discipline doesn't care about your mood, your circumstances, or whether the sun is shining. Discipline shows up rain or shine. It's the voice that said, get up, even when your body screams, stay in bed. Discipline pushes you to show up to the gym, to study, to grind, to work, not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. It's a contract you make with yourself and keep. That consistency builds result. That daily action done regardless of emotion stacks up over time and creates momentum. Momentum builds success, not passion, not hype, but the quiet, gritty force of discipline. Think about all the times you were motivated. You watched a video, heard a speech, got inspired by someone's story. You felt invincible for an hour, maybe even a day, but what happened when the feeling wore off? When the pain hit, when you got bored, when distractions crept in, you stopped. And that's the trap. Motivation gives you a spark, but discipline keeps the fire burning. If you only move when you're motivated, you'll never be consistent. Consistency is the foundation of mastery. The people at the top of their game, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, leaders, they don't rely on hype to get moving. They rely on systems, habits, and discipline. Discipline creates structure in your life, and structure gives you power. With discipline, you train your mind to focus. You train your body to perform. You train your spirit to endure. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting, but it works. It's waking up early when no one's watching. It's saying no to distractions when no one's holding you accountable. It's choosing the hard path, not because you're forced to, but because you know it leads somewhere better. That daily discipline becomes part of who you are. It shapes your identity. You don't just do discipline thing. You become a discipline, and that shift changes everything. You start to trust yourself more because now when you set a goal, you know you'll follow through. Not because of some fleeting emotion, but because you've trained your will. You've proven to yourself that you can do hard things repeatedly, and that self-trust becomes confidence. Not the fake kind that comes from hype or praise, but real earned confidence that no one can take from you. Discipline builds that. Motivation never could. The other thing people get wrong is thinking discipline is about punishment. It's not. It's about freedom. When you discipline yourself to control your time, your energy, your thoughts, you gain control of your life. You're no longer reacting to everything. You're responding with intention. You're no longer a slave to your moods. You become the master of your actions. That's power. That's freedom. And it doesn't come from a good mood. It comes from doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like doing it. So when you're tempted to skip the work, when you're tempted to wait until you're in the mood, remind yourself that the mood is irrelevant. Show up anyway. Do the work anyway. Be the person who doesn't wait for the perfect condition. Be the person who creates their own momentum. Discipline is the grind no one sees, the boring hours no one claps for, the sacrifices no one celebrates. But all of that compounds into something unstoppable. While others are waiting to feel like it, you're moving forward, step by step, no matter what. That's the difference. That's the edge. That's the weapon. Motivation may get you started, but discipline is what gets you finished. Discipline is doing what you say you do long after the mood you set in has left you. It's easy to make promises when you're excited. It's easy to say, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day when you're fired up after watching a motivational video. Easy to tell yourself, I'm going to stick to this plan, follow this diet, commit to this workout, build this business when everything feels fresh, new, and full of energy. But then life happens. The energy fades, the buzz wears off. The fire you felt at the beginning becomes a flicker, and suddenly everything you said you do starts to feel heavy. The temptation to quit grows louder. That's where discipline steps in. Because discipline isn't about how you feel. It's about what you committed to and whether or not you have the strength to honor that commitment. By too many people start with hype and end with excuses. They let their moods dictate their effort. If they feel good, they show up. If they feel tired, they stay home. If they feel motivated, they go hard. If they feel discouraged, they stop. But discipline doesn't negotiate. Discipline doesn't care about your emotion. Discipline is cold, focused, and clear. It says, you said you would, so you will. That's it. It doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't check in with how you're feeling today. It reminds you of your word, and it demands that you keep it. Don't, when you say you change your life, you meant it in that moment. But that moment won't carry you forever. Life will test you. It will hit you with setbacks, fatigue, stress, and doubt. And every one of those tests will ask the same question. Do you really mean it? Because if you only show up when it's easy, then you're not committed. You're just interested. Discipline turns interest into action, and action into results. It separates the talkers from the doers, the dreamers from the builders, the ones who say they want it from the ones who actually go get it. Think about the promises you made to yourself. Think about how many times you said, this time will be different. And now ask yourself, did you follow through when it got hard? Did you keep showing up when it stopped being fun? That's where growth happens. That's where character is built. Not in the moments of inspiration, but in the moments of struggle. In the days when you have every reason to quit, but don't. That's when you prove to yourself who you really are. Not who you want to be, but who you are under pressure, under fatigue, under resistance. That's where the real version of you is revealed. Not keeping your word to yourself is powerful. Every time you follow through, you send a message to your brain. I can count on me. And that builds self-trust. It builds internal strength. People talk a lot about confidence, but confidence doesn't come from compliments. It comes from consistency, from doing the thing you said you would do, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Every time you do that, you become mentally tougher. You become emotionally stronger. You build integrity, not just with others, but with yourself. On the other hand, every time you break a promise to yourself, you lose a little of that trust. You start to doubt your own word. You start to believe your goals are just talk. You start to expect that you'll probably quit again. That's a dangerous mindset, because once you stop believing in your own follow-through, you stop setting real goals. You stop pushing for more. You settle. And settling is the silent killer potential. But all of that can be reversed with discipline. You can rebuild trust with yourself one decision at a time. Every small commitment kept is a brick in the foundation of your future. That discipline doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. It doesn't need everything to line up. It doesn't require that you be in the right mindset. It only requires that you show up and do the work. You made a promise. Now honor it. Whether that's going to the gym, finishing your project, sticking to your budget, or just staying off your phone when you said you would. These things may seem small, but they are massive. They are rips for your character. They are training for your resilience. Because how you do the small things is how you do everything. When the hype is gone, when the crowd stops cheering, when there's no one around to clap for your effort, what do you do then? Do you still go to work? Do you still keep your promises? That's where the winners separate from the rest. Because the winners learn early that their word has power. And they protect that power by living in alignment with it every single day. Not just when it's convenient, not just when it's easy, but every day, every moment, every decision. Discipline is a way of life. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's always there, guiding your actions, keeping you grounded, and pulling you forward toward the life you said you wanted. That discipline means saying no to short-term pleasure so you can say yes to long-term purpose. Every day you are faced with a decision. Choose what feels good now or choose what builds something greater later. That's the battle. That's the test. And most people lose that battle because they're addicted to the feeling of a right now. They crave comfort. They want the dopamine hit. They want the reward without the grind. But real success demands sacrifice. Real growth demands that you delay the gratification, hold back on the urge to indulge and lock in on the bigger vision. The truth is, what feels good right now is usually not what serves you in the long run. Scrolling through your phone for hours feels good in the moment, but it's stealing time from your goals. Sleeping in feels amazing when the alarm goes off, but it's robbing you of the opportunity to take control of your day. Eating junk food tastes good for 10 minutes, but it pushes your fitness goals 10 steps back. Every one of these decisions is a trade-off. You're not just choosing what to do. You're choosing what you're willing to sacrifice. When you chase pleasure, you sacrifice purpose. When you commit to purpose, you sacrifice pleasure. That's the price, Doc. This is where discipline separates the average from the elite. Because anyone can grind when they feel inspired. Anyone can say no once or twice. But true discipline is choosing purpose over pleasure over and over again until it becomes second nature. It's turning your back on comfort, not just once, but every day. It's not about one big sacrifice. It's about 1,000 small ones. The moments no one sees, the decisions no one applauds. The self-control no one praises. Those are the sacrifices that build greatness that's supposed to be easy. Your brain is wired to chase the easy route. It wants safety, relaxation, comfort, but your goals don't live there. Your potential doesn't live there. It lives on the other side of discipline. It lives in the pain, the repetition, the struggle, the resistance. It lives in the early mornings, the late nights, the skip parties, the hours of practice. It lives in the space where you say, I could, but I won't. Because you know what you're building is bigger than what you're giving up. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you take a step closer to becoming the person you were meant to be. You gain strength, you gain focus. You sharpen your mind, you reinforce your purpose. And it doesn't happen all at once. It's brick by brick, choice by choice, sacrifice by sacrifice. And each time you say no to something meaningless, you say yes to something meaningful. Every skipped distraction, every delayed desire, every resisted temptation, it all adds up. And eventually, those choices create results that comfort could never produce. Most people want to win, but they're not willing to lose anything to do it. They want the body, but not the sweat. They want the business, but not the grind. They want the dream, but not the discipline. And when they don't get the result, they blame the world. They blame the system. They blame everything, but their inability to say no. Success requires self-denial. It requires that you look yourself in the mirror and ask, what are you willing to give up to get what you say you want? And then actually follow through that. The more you practice sacrifice, the more power you gain. Not just power over your schedule, but power over your impulses. That's where true freedom comes from. Most people think freedom is doing whatever you want, but that's not freedom. That's slavery to your cravings. Real freedom is the ability to choose what's right, even when what's wrong feels easier. Real freedom is controlling your desires, not letting your desires control you. And that kind of freedom only comes from discipline. People look at successful individuals and see the rewards, but they don't see the pain behind the scenes. They don't see the moments of hunger, fatigue, loneliness, frustration. They don't see the missed vacations, the sleepless nights, the meal skip, the parties decline, the holidays worked through. They don't see the cost. But every level of success has a price tag, and the currency is sacrifice. You either pay now with discipline, or you pay later with regret. Now, the power of sacrifice is that it forces you to focus. When you remove the easy option, you're left with clarity. You stop wasting energy on distraction. You stop chasing every impulse. You start becoming laser focused on what matters. That focus becomes your advantage. Because while everyone else is jumping from one quick pleasure to the next, you're building something with staying power. You're building a life rooted in purpose, not passivity. Saying no to pleasure doesn't mean you don't enjoy life. It means you're choosing the type of life worth enjoying. One where your days are aligned with your values. One where your actions reflect your vision. One where you don't have to chase happiness because you're creating fulfillment. And that's something no short-term pleasure can give you. No one is coming to save you. That's a truth most people spend their whole lives trying to ignore. They wait for the perfect mentor, the right moment, a lucky break, or someone to step in and fix everything. But life doesn't work like that. Success doesn't knock on your door with a rescue plan. It waits in the shadows, watching to see if you're willing to save yourself. Your results are not a reflection of your potential, your dreams, or your intentions. Your results are a reflection of your discipline, your habits, your choices, and your grind. If you don't own your effort, you don't own your outcome. It's easy to blame. It's easy to say, I didn't have the support, or no one believed in me, or they had more resources. But none of that changes your reality. Blame is a distraction. It makes you feel like you're doing something when really you're just avoiding responsibility. The hard truth is this: your life is your fault. Your success is your responsibility. Your failures are your responsibility. Every single result in your life is rooted in the actions you did or didn't take. Once you stop pointing fingers and start taking full accountability, everything changes. Because now you have power. You have control. God, most people stay stuck because they're waiting. They're waiting to feel ready, waiting for someone to believe in them, waiting for a sign. But waiting is just another form of fear. You don't need permission to level up. You don't need applause to work hard. You don't need anyone to save you because you have everything you need already. The moment you decide to stop waiting and start moving, you begin to shift. You begin to take your life out of neutral and put it in drive. You don't need a cheerleader. You need a mindset that says, let's go. People love the idea of success, but not the weight of responsibility that comes with it. Because when you own your results, there are no more excuses. If you're out of shape, it's on you. If you're broke, it's on you. If you keep quitting, it's on you. That kind of truth is heavy, but it's also liberating. Because if it's on you, that means you can fix it. You can change it. You can take action. You can grow. Nothing is out of reach when you stop relying on other people to do the work for you. The life you want is earned, not handed out. It's not found. It's built. Look at your daily habits. Look at your decisions. Are they aligned with the results you say you want, or are they built around comfort and convenience? You can't expect world-class outcomes from half-hearted effort. You can't get elite results from average choices. If your actions don't match your ambition, then your ambition means nothing. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. Your grind must reflect your goals. If you want something extraordinary, you have to become someone extraordinary through discipline and consistent work. When you take full ownership of your results, you also take full ownership of your potential. You stop seeing limitations and start seeing opportunities. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes a setup. Because now you're not looking for someone to fix your life. You're fixing it yourself. That's a mindset shift most people never make. They live in a loop of hoping, wishing, and complaining. But hope without action is just a fantasy. The only way to break out of that loop is to take massive personal responsibility. There's power in knowing no one is coming to rescue you. It forces you to dig deep. It forces you to find a level of discipline you didn't know you had. It makes you resourceful. When you stop leaning on others and start standing on your effort, you become unstoppable. Because now your success doesn't depend on circumstances. It depends on your choices. And you can control. You may not be able to control your starting point, but you control your work ethic. You control your attitude. You control how you respond. That's more than enough. Ownership is what transforms lives. The people who rise to the top in any field are not the ones who were handed the most. They are the ones who did the most with what they had. They didn't ask, but why is it so hard? They asked, what else can I do? They didn't complain about the odds. They learned how to beat them. That's the mindset of a winner. And it starts with understanding that your results are not anyone else's job. It's not your boss's job. It's not your parents' job. It's not your partner's job. It's yours. When you stop outsourcing responsibility, you start unlocking potential. You start becoming a person who makes things happen instead of waiting for them to happen. That shift is everything. It doesn't mean the journey gets easier, but it means you get stronger. You start approaching every day with purpose. You start treating your time like it matters. You start valuing progress over comfort. And you do it not because someone's watching, not because someone told you to, but because you made the decision to own your life completely. That discipline builds legacy. It's not just about reaching a goal or hitting a milestone. It's about creating something that lasts beyond the moment, beyond the win, beyond yourself. A legacy isn't built on talent alone. It's not built on hype, likes, or applause. It's built on the daily decisions you make when nobody's watching. It's built on the work you do in silence. It's built on the days you show up even when you don't feel like it. Discipline's what separates a short-term achievement from long-term impact. It's the difference between being a moment in time and becoming a name that echoes long after you're gone. Everybody wants to be remembered, but not everybody is willing to pay the price that legacy demands. Because legacy is expensive, it costs your time, your comfort, your energy, and your ego. Discipline forces you to say no to things that might bring temporary pleasure, so you can say yes to things that build something meaningful. You can't build a legacy by doing what's easy. You can't build a legacy by quitting when it's hard. You can't build a legacy by doing the bare minimum and hoping for maximum results. Discipline is the tool, the mindset, the armor that helps you keep building even when the world doesn't notice, even when the results take time, even when your body wants to quit, but your purpose tells you to continue. When you live with discipline, you're thinking about more than today. You're thinking about the mark you leave behind. You're thinking about the people who come after you, your family, your team, your community, and what they'll see when they look at your life. Will they see someone who showed up every day, gave everything they had, and refused to cut corners? Or will they see someone who gave up when it got hard? Someone who had the talent but lacked the follow through? That's what legacy is. It's not what you say, it's what you leave behind. And you leave that trail through your discipline. Discipline doesn't guarantee that you'll be famous or celebrated, but it guarantees that you'll be proud of the path you walked. It guarantees that when the dust settles, you'll be able to look in the mirror and know you gave it everything. That matters more than anything, because legacy isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's the example you set for one person who needed to see what commitment looks like. Sometimes it's the ripple effect of your hard work showing someone else what's possible when you stay the course. Discipline plants those seeds, and those seeds grow into trees that outlast your lifetime. There's nothing glamorous about discipline in the moment. It's repetition, it's consistency, it's grinding when there's no applause. But that's exactly why it matters. That's exactly why it's rare. It's rare. Discipline is what holds everything together when your motivation runs out. It's what keeps your vision alive when you're exhausted, frustrated, or doubting yourself. The people who build legacy aren't the ones who never feel those things. They're the ones who push through them. They show up when it's inconvenient. They work when they're tired. They choose purpose over feelings, over and over again. Most people are chasing success, but success without discipline is empty, because if you don't have the habits to sustain it, it'll fade. What you build without discipline, you won't keep. But when you build through discipline, you create something durable, something real, something that lasts. Legacy isn't built on what you did once. It's built on what you did consistently. Discipline ensures that your effort compounds over time. It ensures that each day you're adding to something bigger than yourself. One rep at a time, one decision at a time, one disciplined day at a time. There's always going to be pressure to take shortcuts. There's always going to be temptation to settle. But the ones who leave a mark are the ones who keep their standards high, even when no one else does. They don't lower the bar just because everyone around them is getting lazy. They don't relax their values just to fit in. They stick to their principles. They remain disciplined. That integrity becomes part of their legacy, because people remember how you carried yourself, not just what you achieved. Every act of discipline is an investment in your legacy. Waking up early, doing the extra work, preparing when others are relaxing, staying focused when everyone else is distracted. These choices might seem small, but they compound. They build something powerful. They shape your identity. And over time, that identity creates a reputation. That reputation becomes the story people tell about you. And that story becomes your legacy. Legacy isn't about being perfect. It's about being relentless. It's about being committed. It's about refusing to quit no matter how long it takes. Discipline gives you that edge. It teaches you how to endure, how to stay locked in, how to push past resistance. That's what separates those who are remembered from those who are forgotten. Talent may open doors, but discipline is what keeps you in the room. And the longer you stay in the room, the more impact you make. Discipline isn't just about action, it's about becoming. It's not only about what you do, it's about who you become through what you do consistently. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, every time you choose hard over easy, every time you do what's right over what's comfortable, you're shaping yourself. You're chiseling away the weaknesses, the excuses, the laziness, and the fear. You're sculpting a stronger, sharper, more focused version of yourself. Discipline is not punishment. It's transformation. It's not something that restricts you. It's something that refines you. People often look at discipline like it's some kind of cage, like it limits their freedom. But the truth is, the most disciplined people are the most free because they're not controlled by impulses. They're not prisoners to distractions. They don't have to recover from inconsistency or regret. They don't waste energy constantly restarting because they never stopped. They built a system inside themselves that moves even when the world tries to pull them off track. That's real power. That's real freedom. And it doesn't come from doing what feels good. It comes from doing what makes you better. Every habit you develop through discipline is a brick in the foundation of your character. Waking up early isn't just about gaining time. It's about mastering your morning, mastering your mind. Working out isn't just about getting stronger physically. It's about proving to yourself that you can push past comfort and still show up. Sticking to your word, even when it's inconvenient, isn't just about keeping a schedule. It's about developing integrity. The kind of integrity that becomes part of your identity. And identity is everything, because you will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. Discipline shapes that belief by giving you evidence day after day that you are someone who follows through. Most people want the results without the process. They want the confidence without the sacrifice. But confidence isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the shadow. It's built in the moments you choose to work when no one's clapping. It's built every time you keep going when quitting would be easier. That inner strength, that internal certainty doesn't come from external validation. It comes from knowing you didn't need anyone to push you. You pushed yourself. That self-respect becomes a force that can't be shaken because it's rooted in discipline, not hype. Discipline creates a version of you that you can respect. Not because you're perfect, but because you're committed. Not because you never fall, but because you always rise. You stop talking about who you want to be and start becoming it. Through the choices you make, through the actions you take, through the habits you live by. Discipline builds consistency. Consistency builds character. And character builds destiny. Every decision you make is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. So when you choose discipline, you're not just making a smart move. You're shaping your future self. Becoming that next level version of you isn't about massive leaps. It's about relentless steps. Small, intentional, disciplined actions repeated day after day after day. That's how you evolve. That's how you level up. That's how you go from someone who hopes, dreams, and talks to someone who acts, builds, and leads. Discipline bridges the gap between potential and power. Everyone has potential, but discipline is what converts it into real, tangible transformation. When you live with discipline, your mind changes. You stop chasing motivation and you start creating momentum. You stop waiting for the right time and you start making every time right. You learn how to say no to what doesn't serve you. You start filtering your choices through your purpose, not your preferences. You become intentional, focused, sharp. You're no longer led by your mood, you're led by your mission. That shift doesn't just change your schedule, it changes your soul. It changes your soul. Discipline reveals who you are, but it also reveals who you could be. It stretches you. It challenges you. It forces you to confront your limits and then push past them. And with every breakthrough, you discover a new gear, a new level, a new mindset. You start to realize that greatness isn't a gift, it's a habit. And that habit is built through discipline, through repetition, through deliberate practice, through refusing to settle, no matter how far you've come. You don't need to look for the version of you you want to become. You need to build it through choices, through sacrifice, through commitment. The stronger your discipline, the clearer your vision. Because when you live in alignment with your highest standards, the noise fades. The distractions lose their power. You stop being pulled in 100 directions and start walking in one. That kind of focus, that kind of self-control is the foundation of every major transformation. It's not about waiting for change. It's about becoming the change. And that process begins and ends with discipline. So now the question isn't a can you, it's a will you? Will you have the courage to choose discipline when comfort calls your name? Will you commit when it's not easy, not flashy, not fun, but necessary? Will you hold the line when nobody's watching, when nobody's clapping, when it's just you, your goals, and the grind? Because that's where greatness is born. That's where transformation begins. It's not in the spotlight. It's in the silence. It's in the sacrifice. It's in the discipline that no one else can do it for you. No one else can walk your path, build your vision, or carry your legacy. That's on you. And that's the power. Because once you choose discipline, you choose growth. You choose growth. You choose the future version of yourself that's been waiting on the other side of all those excuses. So get up, lock in, stay focused, discipline yourself. Because the world doesn't need more talkers. It needs finishers, builders, leaders, and it starts with you.